Hi, this is Sarah.
And this is Rachel.
And this is The Diaries, a podcast where we rip apart, episode by episode, the Vampire Diaries. Warning, this is a rewatch podcast. There's always spoilers. We're always talking about how things relate to future episodes.
Definitely. This week, there will probably be some. We're talking about Season 2, Episode 9, Katerina. You know, if the title of the episode is just a name, it's gonna slap. We just did Rose. This one's Katerina. And then Klaus is later on.
Yeah.
All those episodes hit.
Yes.
So this is a good one.
Yeah, they're in their Beyonce era.
Just
the first name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And so this one, of course, is all about not only Catherine Pierce, but Katerina Petrova. It is all about her Bulgarian human days. Yeah. And that's right where we start off, just to launch straight into it, is Bulgaria 1490. I love that they adopted Catherine's background into being Bulgarian because, of course, Nina is Bulgarian.
Yeah, and speaks Bulgarian.
Whereas in the books, which they don't follow the books that closely anyway, but in the books, Catherine was German. Her name was like Catherine von Schwarzschild or something. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, she's like super German. So it's funny that they like changed it, and it's like perfect sense because they totally utilize, you know, Nina's skills. And it totally reads in this because in this scene, Catherine is still human, of course, and she is giving birth to a baby. And her mother is coaching her. She's trying to help her through it. Her father is just like standing in the doorway looking like really disapproving, watching. Yep. And, you know, her mother announces it's a baby girl. And her father takes that like baby away and saying that Catherine has disgraced the family. Yep. And he leaves before she can hold the baby. And she's yelling like, please let me hold the baby. Like, please. Yeah. And they leave, and she's left sobbing, like, with her mother. And, again, this is where it's, like, you know, Nina's so immersed. She speaks that language already. So, like, oh, my God, the emotions are so good. And if she didn't already speak it, I don't know if she could have done this to this degree.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. This opening scene is just so powerful. It's so powerful. Such a good job done, yeah.
It's always kind of like, you know, the villain origin story is always a little, like, you know, like, they do bad things. Can we really write them off for the bad things they do? This one, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know. But, like, it gives you a lot of sympathy to Catherine.
Oh, for sure.
This whole episode. But I think this scene especially. Seeing her give birth to a baby that's immediately taken from her is very devastating.
Without even getting to hold it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So anyway, so we go from that, like, really emotional wreck of an intro into the Salvatore house, of course, where Damon answers the door to a very Catherine-looking Elena. Did you think that, too? I was like, Catherine?
Yeah, she looks a little bit different. There's just like this, it's like a zip up thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a little bit, it felt like Catherine trying to look like Elena, and then it was also the pose, the way she was just kind of standing there at the door staring at him, like looked like she didn't want to be there. I was like, that's a very Catherine look of her. But I think it really is, Elena's feeling sassy. She is.
She definitely is.
She got kidnapped last episode. Yeah. I'd also be like cranky.
Yeah.
Like, nobody talks to me.
Yeah, she's justified.
She's justified. So, you know, she says that Stefan called her, and that's why she's there. Yep. So she comes in and finds that Rose is still there, which obviously she doesn't look too happy about.
Very surprised by. Yeah.
Kidnapped her less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
Cut to all of them kind of going in over all this info. Rose is sharing all of this stuff that she knows about the originals.
Yeah, and she's saying, you know, she doesn't know, like, if it's 100% true. The only thing she knows for sure is that Klaus is real. Like, Klaus, who was, you know, name dropped in the last episode. Yeah. He's an original and he's real.
Yeah, I really love this sequence because, you know, they're sharing these things and, again, saying they don't know what's real. And I think it really works because the things they are saying are sort of wrong. The things that they're kind of, like, explaining. Like, Rose says Elijah is the Easter Bunny compared to Klaus. Like, yeah, right.
And she also says in this that he's just a foot soldier.
Yeah, he's just a foot soldier.
I sort of alluded to this, that I had more to say in the last episode. But, like, it just goes to show, I feel like, how little they know, but also that they didn't know what they were going to do with Elijah's character. Yeah. Because, like, I don't know. I feel like him being Klaus's brother, inherently, you wouldn't call him just a foot soldier. Yeah. I don't know. It was just
recognize that he's, like, the right-hand man.
Yeah, exactly. And would probably know that he's Klaus's brother, which I'm surprised Rose doesn't know.
Yeah. But again, I think it still works. I agree. It still works. It's definitely like they didn't know where they were going. Yeah. But it still works because I think it plays at this idea that, like, the originals have reached, like, a mythic level of supernatural. Like, they have reached, like, a folklorian status of, like, what is true, what isn't. Nobody really knows what's true. Nobody really knows them. They're just, like, you know, Stefan even says it later. It's like a ghost story. It's like nobody knows the truth. And so I think in that way, you can play it off as being like that.
Yeah, I think that works. Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think they just didn't know what they were writing.
Yeah, I think the real reason is, they didn't totally know. But it does work to add to the legend, the lore. Yeah.
But the one thing they do tell us, which again is false actually, is they say they know that Klaus is the oldest vampire, which he's one of the oldest.
He's one of, but
Rebecca is the oldest, and if we're being real, Rebecca's the one Elena should have been worrying about the whole time. Rebecca's the one that kills her.
Yeah, true.
So I just thought that was funny. I was like, nope, he is one of the oldest. He is an original, but he's not even the oldest.
Yeah, not even the oldest, really.
So you see how these stories kind of spin over time and become like, they weasel their way down like very incorrectly.
Yeah. But they
Stefan is in full denial. Can we talk about that? Stefan is just like, oh no, like, he's
Elijah's dead. Yeah. All is fine.
He's like, no one's even laid eyes on Klaus. LOL. Yes. Stefan, boy, you are in for a treat.
I know. I love this on a rewatch. Like,
it's so good on a rewatch. And this is where he says, like, for all we know, Klaus is just a scary bedtime story. Like, it's like he's totally just trying to brush this off. And he's like, you're fine. I'll protect you. You're good. Stefan is so in denial.
Very in denial, yeah.
And like Rose is just insistent. Like, Klaus is coming.
He's coming. You should be afraid.
Yeah, he's going to get what he wants, and he wants Elena.
Yeah.
Elena is just very quiet, and she just quietly gets up and says she's going to school. And Stefan's like, I'll come with you. And she's like, I know where it is.
Like, she's like, no, you're not, actually.
Yeah, I can find my way myself.
Yeah, she's feeling sassy. But
I really feel for Elena in this sequence because, like, earlier, like we said, there were some episodes where I think people get annoyed with Elena because she's making it about herself in a way. Like, she's framing it as her fault. And in those situations, it didn't actually seem like her fault. Like, oh, why do we know that Katherine coming back has anything to do with Elena? Why? It could be about Stefan. It could be because, you know, whatever. Like, there's a million reasons to write it off. But now it's, like, finally the confirmation that, like, oh, actually, this is all about you.
It is because it's about Elena.
Yeah, Katherine is here because of you. And, like, all of this is going down because you are who you are. Not by choice, but just because you're the doppelganger. And Damon says when she leaves, he's like, she's in denial.
Which is funny because Elena's really not in denial at all.
Elena's way more accepting of this than anyone else.
Is the one that's really in denial. They're all like, I think besides Rose, like Stefan and Damon both are a little bit in denial.
Yeah, I think Damon's like at least being more proactive and being like, oh, it's probably not that bad, but we should at least look into it.
Let's get ahead of it. Yeah.
Stefan's just like, I'll protect you. You're fine. Like, we'll Don't worry about it.
Love will be enough. Like,
love will be enough. It's just a scary bedtime story. Like, I'll check in the closet, make sure there's no monsters. Like, he's fully in denial.
Yeah, truly delusional.
So yeah, funny that Damon says that about Elena.
Yeah. And then Stefan hits him with a little, shut up, Damon, which I really like.
Yeah, because he's the one in denial.
Yeah.
So he's like, he's not willing to have it called out.
Yeah.
But anyway, of course, Elena didn't want him to come to school with her because she wasn't going to school.
Yeah, she was not going to school. She was, in fact, getting Caroline to take her to the tomb. Elena has asked Caroline to sort of cover for her. So they're walking towards the church, like going under the church into the ruins. And, you know, Caroline is again asking Elena, like, are you sure you want to do this? You know? And Elena's like, yes, she's the only person who knows the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, Caroline, she agrees to cover for her, but she's also clearly nervous because she's also like, Katherine is dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, and she's gonna let her do it, but she knows it's risky.
Yep.
And, you know, Elena says, like, as long as I'm behind, like, as long as I'm outside the tomb, I'm fine. Like, she can't get past that door. There's nothing she can do to me.
Yeah.
You know, cue Katherine just coming up out of the depths, just hobbling in. And she gives a, hello, Elena. Yeah, she's like, raspy voice. She's had a drip of water in weeks.
I was going to say the raspy voice, it makes sense, but it's a little overkill. I just started laughing.
I know, I did too. It's like, girl.
It's like, it's a little too much.
Yeah.
But she comes for, hello. Like she's been, I don't know. But, so she comes forward. And Katherine
I was gonna say it's funny because Katherine is the one that dismisses Caroline. Then she's like, "Goodbye, Caroline."
Yeah.
So then Caroline has to leave, which, you know, it's funny. She's like kind of reluctant, but she's like, "Okay, like I guess you're okay." Which I love that she trusts Elena enough to like do this for her and to let her do this. And Elena has this huge bag. At first I was like, what is in this bag? But she immediately starts pulling stuff out. She has like a pillow for Katherine. She has like a big lantern. So, you know, she's been sitting in the dark. They had to do the door on that thing. She's been sitting in the dark for however long she's been in there.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That kind of sucks.
It really sucks. And she brings, you know, she has a few other things. But then, of course, the main thing is like, well, she has the book, the Petrova book.
The big book, yeah.
And then, of course...
that they got from Isabel's office.
Yes, a callback a little bit. And then, of course, a bottle of blood. That's the thing Katherine really wants.
Yeah, as soon as she sees it, Katherine is like up against the door. She hits like the invisible barrier. Yeah.
I would have bought the girl like some sweatpants, maybe a comb.
I know, literally.
A makeup remover wipe. She's in her masquerade outfit still. Sucks. I would be miserable.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, I would have brought her maybe a little something else, but a pillow is nice.
It's
also,
so nice
Katherine,
enough.
So you're like,
you're not sure that much sympathy. Yeah. The blood is pretty good, and also it's like clearly the best like negotiating tactic to be
for
like,
sure.
You're desiccating in there. Give me what I want, and I'll give you the blood. Like, no one else is gonna offer this to you. You're just gonna wither away.
Yeah,
Elena doesn't even have to say that. Katherine just knows that. And so, of course, you know, they kind of strike up this deal. Elena starts pouring out blood into a cup because she says, I want to know about Klaus.
Yes.
And Katherine's like, you've been busy.
Yeah, you've been busy.
You've caught up.
Yeah. So she has these little, like, just like the little baby cups that she fills, and Elena gets a conveniently placed stick and, like, sort of pushes it, like, across the barrier.
Yeah.
To sort of give Katherine
her shot. Literally, like a 2 tablespoon of blood.
Yeah.
But, of course, Katherine easily takes that, and, you know, this kind of opens things up. This opens up the door of conversation. It works. Katherine starts talking, and she says Elena has the Petrova fire, which I thought was kind of nice, kind of recognizing what we're going into here. The first thing she reveals is that she did have a baby. She actually did have a baby as a human, and that it was out of wedlock. And so that baby was given away, and that's why there's no record of it. That's why nobody knows she ever had a child, because it was kept a secret because she was not supposed to have that baby. Obviously frowned upon.
Yeah, exactly. And she says, you know, it's a long story, but yeah, it starts with me being banished from Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Because she had this child, and then she ends up in England.
I really love that her backstory is that she had a baby out of wedlock and was banned from her country, because that's just so like on brand. Like,
it works like, really well.
I feel like the only other thing that would like work just as well is like sleeping with like a married man's like husband or something, and like shamed out of the country. Like, it's just so Katherine.
Yeah.
So yeah, she gets banned from the country. She gets kicked out of the country.
Not sure how that worked, but okay.
I don't know. It's the 1400s. I don't know the politics of that era, but it's really crazy.
Yep.
And so of course she gets out of the country. She ends up in England, where she really glazes over this part of the story. She's kind of giving the footnotes to Elena. She says she moved to England. She met Klaus there. She learned what Klaus wanted from her, and then she ran like hell.
Yep.
That's the brief kind of thing she gives her. Then we cut into an England 1492 flashback. We see Katherine running through the woods. She's being chased by Elijah and a pack of other random vampires. And then Trevor shows up, and he points them in the wrong direction. He gets them running looking for her, and then he finds her and tells her to like go to like a cottage. They'll help her there. Poor stupid Trevor, this guy, the first of many, maybe not the first, but he's definitely not the last.
No, definitely not the first, definitely not the last. But yeah, he's played a little bit, and well, he's really played in the end. But at this point, he's just trying to help out someone he loves.
Yeah, he's doing all of this in the name of saving Katherine.
Yeah,
we'll see where it gets him.
A mistake many before have made. Yeah, and back in the present day, that's all we see in the flashback right now. And back in the present day, Elena asks Katherine what Klaus wanted from her. And Katherine just says he wanted to break the curse. They leave it at that little like cliffhanger there for a moment, but we get all of that. And then we go back to the Salvatore house, where we see Rose is sort of like crying. She's off just like sitting somewhere. And Damon comes like toward her. He starts walking toward her to try to talk to her. And he says, "All right, Rosebud," like to start the conversation. And I love that little like nickname. I just thought that was really cute.
I know. I love that he calls her Rosebud.
I know. I thought it was so cute.
He's so good with the nicknames.
He is. Yeah. Love him. And yeah, they start talking about the humanity switch, and Damon is sort of saying, just flip the switch, like if you're this upset.
Yeah.
And Rose does a little like I will if you will. Like, yeah.
Yeah, right, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she's like, it might be for the best. It's like, and she notices, like, she says, like, I've observed that you're literally in love with Elena, so maybe you should. Yeah.
This is why I love Rose. She gets in here like 24, like 12 hours she's been there. She's immediately, she knows what's up. Immediately calling out Damon, like, so much shit. It's like, bro, you do not have your emotions off, and also you're obsessed with your brother's girlfriend. Like, come on, we all know. I love her.
I do too.
And, you know, Damon tries to get her to help by saying, you know, how do we find Klaus? Like, what are we gonna do? He doesn't want to. We know Damon. He doesn't want to talk about this stuff. And so Rose is like, well, I have to go through like many people. I knew a guy that knew a guy that knew a guy that knew a guy that knew Elijah, and that's like where that ended.
Yep.
But he's like, okay, well then let's go to the guy. So of course that's gonna take them to Slater.
Yeah, Slater and Richmond, and Damon's immediately like, let's go.
Yeah, get in the car right
let's ride. Yeah, and you know, of course, Rose does a little, I can't be in the sun. Damon's like, okay, then you drive, which doesn't make sense till a later scene. But yeah. At
the time I was like, what does that mean?
How can she drive? Yeah, it's like, I don't know what that does.
But she's on fire just driving. Like, that makes it better.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, back at the school, we see, you know, Bonnie's rolling up to school. She's got her books. She's dropping her books everywhere, which of course Jeremy swoops in out of nowhere and does the cute, like, picking the books up for her. They start talking, and then they're approached by a new person. To say,
he asks her out. He's
yeah. I forget that I like.
She's brushing over Bonnie and Jeremy. Jeremy asks her out. It's not like a formal, like, let's go on a date.
It's like, let's hang out later. Yeah.
Yeah, but for a 16, 17-year-old, that's asking
dating.
out.
Going to the grill
to play pool.
Yeah.
Which is also funny because he's like, do you want to go to the grill after school to play pool? And she says, why? So I love her, Bonnie. It's like she's aware that they have crushes on each other, but she's also not. It's so funny. I think she's a little in denial, but
for sure
she covers it up and says yes, but like, I'm really bad at pool. Jeremy says, I thought you might be. It's like,
oh yeah,
why did you think that, Jeremy?
About that.
If that were me, even if I was terrible at pool, I'd be like, what made you think
that?
Why?
Like, who's been talking? Why?
Why did you just inherently look at me and go, she's bad at pool? It's like that guy on TikTok that gives advice on like what to say to men, where it's just like, tell him he looks like he can't swim.
I've never seen that. That's really
oh my god, they're so funny. But that's like Jeremy to Bonnie right now. You look like you can't play pool. But before he gets to elaborate on that, of course, as you were saying, that is when the new guy at school, Luka, conveniently appears to ask them for help.
Yeah, I was just too excited. I said this about a few side characters, but season 2 has all of the best side characters.
Have all the best. They do.
And I really like Luka. He's done dirty, but like, I'm a big fan.
I don't love him, but I don't dislike him.
I think
he's like middle tier for me in terms of
he had potential, in my opinion. Wasted potential, but he had potential.
He's definitely wasted potential, unfortunately.
Yeah. But anyway, we meet Luka for the first time. He's obviously new here and new in the show. And he asks, you know, if they know where to go to the school office. He's got to do whatever you do on your first day of school, whatever. And, you know, they joke about him being new, which he was like, yeah, I guess I can't really hide it. It was like, it was just so weird. It's an awkward little conversation.
Also, it's awkward because Bonnie like clearly looks into him and he looks into her.
There's clearly something there.
They're smiling at each other. Jeremy's even looking between them like, wait a second, like I thought she was mine.
I thought we were gonna play pool later. Yeah.
So
there's immediate chemistry between them. They're like exchanging looks. But anyway, Jeremy, not too jealous. He offers to take Luka to the office. So they go off on their way.
Jeremy, the smiley. We talked about this last time. Jeremy being hot. I have not. I'm thinking about him with a new light, and in this scene specifically, I was like, he was smiling a lot at her. I was like, yeah, I get it. I do get it.
This is definitely Jeremy's most attractive era. Yeah, it goes downhill after that. No, me neither. That's me. So toxic.
It's true. We say as Damon stands.
Yeah,
the toxicity.
True. I'm like, oh my god.
I hate a toxic man.
Yeah, I do, really.
Anyway, speaking of toxic men, Stefan. So anyway, Caroline sees Stefan trying to leave school. He's just bouncing. And she's like, where are you going? And he says he's going to go check on Elena. And of course, like a good distraction that she is, she has to give Stefan a reason to stay. This was, of course, the mission Elena gave her. So Caroline, conveniently throws out there that she told Tyler Lockwood that she's a vampire, which was probably the one chip she could have placed to get Stefan to really, not go after Elena and to instead stay there to talk to her. He's kind of like, oh, but it's now I got to deal with this.
Yeah, he's like, it works. She knew what she was doing. Yeah, but back at the tomb, Elena is still interrogating Katherine. She's asking her, what does the Petrova bloodline have to do with Klaus? Like, why was this part of the curse? And Katherine explains, which she doesn't know at the time, incorrect, but she explains that the doppelganger was used in the curse, which that part's correct, used in the original curse, and that's why nature is making up for it by continuing to make doppelgangers that could potentially break the curse.
Yep.
Not why we have doppelgangers, but she is right that one of the doppelgangers was used in the curse.
Yeah, it was a way to, the sacrifice of the doppelganger, too. This is where she reveals. It's not just, getting the doppelganger. It's, killing the doppelganger.
Yeah, he was going to drain every drop of blood from my body.
Yeah. And that is what bound the curse. And it's, she says that it's witches and their spells. And their creative balance. And this leads us again into a flashback, this time in England in the 1400s, where Katherine has now found that cottage that Trevor pointed her to. And we see Rose behind the door that she gets into. I love Rose's long hair in the 1400s. I was like, Lauren Cohen is just so pretty. Like,
she really is. She
so
pulls off the Alice Cullen, the long medieval locks. She pulls it all off.
She looks great.
Yeah.
And so Katherine shows up to Rose, and she has the moonstone. Katherine does. She's like, I just stole it and ran. I love her.
She's like, it seemed like he would need this, so I did.
Good. She's brilliant. But Rose is, of course, like, no.
She's like, we're taking you back.
We're not doing anything with this. She's like, I don't care what Trevor's promised. You're going back. And so she locks Katherine in, the back room of this cottage and, just says, we're going to take you back to Klaus and we're going to beg for mercy that he doesn't kill us just for this. And, we cut back to this later, a little bit later, because it's kind of going back and forth of these flashbacks. But a little bit later, we see the sun has gone down. Rose tells her the sun's down, so now we can get you back to Klaus. And as she's trying to grab Katherine, she realizes Katherine has a stab wound in her side.
Yeah, she's bleeding out. Yeah, she's bleeding in the stomach. Yeah.
And so she's, Katherine is all, oh, well, I fell in the woods. And Rose is like, no, you didn't.
I would have smelt it.
Yeah.
You're a little liar, Katherine. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And Katherine's like, I would rather die than go back to Klaus, which Rose should have realized, because I feel like, it might have been a brutal way to die is maybe what she was trying to avoid. But, if you're willing to die, why just kill yourself here and there? I don't know.
Also, why do a stab to the stomach when you could so easily do anything else?
She should have realized, but she doesn't. So Rose, of course, gives Katherine blood to heal her, and so that she can take her back to Klaus. But unconveniently, at this exact moment, Trevor arrives. He's saying he loves Katherine. He would do anything for her. He'd rather run with her than die. Let her die.
Yeah, and importantly, when Trevor comes in, Rose sort of leaves the room that Katherine is in and goes out to where Trevor is, in the entrance of the cottage.
It's a true distractioning, a true open for Katherine, and Katherine.
She really takes advantage of it. Trevor, again, he's saying I love her, I had to do this for her, and they hear a noise while they're sort of having this argument, and they look back, and Katherine has hung herself. She's now going to turn into a vampire because she's
fully in transition now. It just shows, even as a human, even as a literal 17-year-old girl at this point, Katherine is so cunning, so manipulative. She always has a plan that was so purposefully intentional. Born schemer. She was intentionally using both of them. And so they're distracted. They find her. She's officially in transition. And Elena, modern day, hearing this story, is so shocked. And, she says to Katherine, how could you do that? And Katherine says that Klaus needed a human. And as, a non-human doppelganger, she was useless to him. But she did, unfortunately, underestimate Klaus's need for vengeance. And so she's had to spend all this time running. But she would rather run all this time than have just been sacrificed over a stupid rock, is what she calls it. Which is really interesting. I think it's a weird, I don't know. It's would you rather run for hundreds of years or just die? I don't know. It's such a hard debate. What's your quality of life?
I feel like Catherine's been living.
She's been living. Yeah, she's been living good.
The Salvatore brothers.
Yeah,
she's been following Stefan around to Bon Jovi concerts. True. She's actually, we see her stalking Stefan like another
in the
time.
20s,
so she's just been following Stefan around. So like,
at least the last 160 or so, 140.
So it could have been bearable.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I just think you're on such edge that whole time. Like,
sure,
you could never settle. And so, you know, it's a debatable thing. So then back in the 1400s, Rose realizes that Katherine did this all, like, completely manipulatively to use both of them. She's like,
girls get it.
Yeah, girls get it. Because Trevor's still like, why would you do that?
Trevor's like, we could have run. Like,
yeah, he's like, I would have saved you.
Yeah.
I would have let you live. Rose is like, you're a dumbass. She's clearly, she used both of us. Like, she used you to get out and me to turn her. She doesn't care about you. And so Rose is like, I'm going to end this.
Yeah, she's like, you just signed our death sentence. And Katherine says, you know, better you die than I.
Yep. And so then Rose lunges at Katherine with a stake to kill her.
Yep.
And Katherine, she grabs onto, there's this woman who's like, cottage this probably is, the caretaker,
the first person who like opened the door. Yeah.
And so she grabs this woman and moves her in front of her as like a human shield, so that the second Rose stabs, it stabs the woman instead of Katherine.
Yeah, and
the
Katherine
human
feeds
woman.
on her.
Yeah, and then Katherine perfectly leans forward and just feeds,
completing
and,
the transition. Yeah.
A vampire now.
Yeah.
We said
this is when she drops the better you die than I. Yeah.
We said Caroline had the smoothest, best vampire transition.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot.
Catherine.
She's really because she orchestrated her own.
Yeah, she orchestrated her own like perfectly.
Yeah.
Not only the feeding, the dying, the actual feeding after she died, and like
completing
each
the transition.
Piece of it, like she knew what she was doing, and she did it so effortlessly. It could have been choreographed. Like it's insane.
Perfect.
And Elena realizes, in hearing this, she's like, Trevor and Rose have been on the run for the last 500 years.
Trevor just died.
Yeah, Trevor just died because of you. Catherine's like, I'm surprised he made it that long. Love
heartless.
Her. Yeah, literally heartless.
Yeah. And, you know, Elena is, of course, Elena being Elena, she's shocked, like, at how careless Katherine is being. Like, she's like, how could you not care? Like, and Katherine just says, you know, I was looking out for myself, and I'll always look out for myself.
Yeah. It's such an interesting debate because Catherine's ideology is just so opposite of Elena's.
Very.
Elena is like, you look up martyr in the dictionary, and it's a picture of Elena. Like, and Stefan.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, she's just a martyr to a T, and she would never die she would die over a stranger any day. You know, like,
whereas Katherine would let literally anyone else die.
She let hundreds of people die for her. She doesn't care.
She did with the tomb. Yeah, she's done so many. Yeah,
she has let probably thousands of people die knowing her. People are disposable to her.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see this debate between them because it's just so contrasted, so distinctly different. Then we have the parking garage and the cafe. Rose and Damon are off to find Slater. They pull up in their tinted car. This is where you realize what he meant.
Yeah. It finally adds up.
And they're in this parking garage, which this is another one of those things that I really think are so interesting because Damon realizes it's a parking garage that is connected to a cafe so that you never have to go outside. You just enter from the back. Mm-hmm. So it's, of course, perfect for vampires who don't do sun. And, you know, it would be such an intense torture to live 500 years and have to be like, I'm going to go into parking garages. They have, like, I don't know. It's just crazy to imagine living like this. But Rose is doing it. Slater's doing it. It's very interesting that they have had to live like this.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that makes it really manageable is they go, you know, through the parking garage up into the cafe, and there's, like, sunlight. It's, like, a very sun-filled cafe, and Rose explains to Damon, like, they're UV...
double-tinted windows.
They're special windows that can allow them to be sitting there in the sun.
You'd be spending your whole day there. That's the only way.
I would be there all hours of the waking day. Like,
I just can't imagine. But then we see Slater, who they went to meet up with. Slater is so smart. He's so well connected. Yeah, he doesn't have a daylight ring for some reason.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
He knows everything. He's studied so many different things, which we'll get to. But
I think they just want to emphasize the sun and the moon curse and show how some vampires actually do live, like, burdened by the sun. Yeah. It's not something we've had to really deal with yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, they find Slater in this cafe, who immediately recognizes Damon.
Yeah.
And he lists off like who Damon was turned by, when he turned. He even mentions that he knows about the tomb under the church. Like, oh, did that work, Rose? And she's like, yeah, it was a good tip, thanks. This is how I would want to be as a vampire, although it does, of course, get you killed to know too much. It's just fun that he's this walking encyclopedia who's just like a Rolodex of like, I know where people have turned, I know who they are.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's a fun thing.
Yeah. He also, asks about Trevor in the scene, and, there's a little bit of like an exchanging of looks between him and Rose.
Not an answer, but an understanding for sure.
Yeah, exactly. An understanding. And it cuts away and it comes back, and, they have clearly talked about Trevor and Elijah because, again, they've had a conversation off screen. They're coming in and, he says he knows now about Trevor, and he was like, Trevor was a good guy. He helped me with like my dissertation on, I think, sexual deviancy in the Baroque period, which launches them into like a whole thing about Slater having like 18 degrees. Yeah. I'm like, I just know this is who I would be if I was a vampire.
I wrote that down. I was like, this is how I feel when I talk to Rachel.
Yeah. Like, I have 15 degrees. Like, I've just been doing school.
Yeah. Rose turns to Damon and she goes, Slater's been in school since 74. I was like, this is me about Rachel.
That's what Sarah tells people about me.
Rachel's been in school since 2000 and whatever.
2000 probably as a child. Yeah.
Since 74. Yeah. And she says he's got like 3 masters, 12 PhDs. Yeah. Like, he's got all these degrees. It's crazy. But it's like, he's like, what else are you supposed to do with all your time?
Which honestly, I would feel the same. I'd be like, I just want to know cool stuff. Like,
yeah, he even says later he's got a theater degree, which I'm like, it's just so fun. I would go do that.
That is amazing.
Yeah, why not? Just like learn and experience. And although doing it without ever being in the sun is crazy.
That seems hard.
Is he just doing night school all the time?
I guess.
He has to be.
Yeah, or it's like the University of Phoenix online or whatever.
Although that only worked like 10 years up to this
I guess that's true. It didn't work in 74, so
he's figured it out somehow.
Yeah.
As he has figured out how to talk to Elijah, because Rose says, that Slater was the contact, and she asks Slater how he got in touch with Elijah, or if he can get in touch with Klaus. And Slater says that he does it in Craigslist, which is funny. But it doesn't, of course, it's not like Elijah's answering Craigslist ads. It's like, he puts a listing out for something to go to something.
Yeah, a person, yeah.
Yeah, it works its way up to Elijah. Cut to the start of the best scene. One of the most iconic scenes.
Very iconic.
It's such a memorable scene. We see, some fancy dress shoes stepping up on the sidewalk. We see a man in a suit pull out a money clip. We see $100 bill hit a guitar case.
Yeah, where someone's, they have like the case out for change to be put in it. They're playing their song. Yeah.
We see a handful of coins get grabbed by said hand.
Yep.
And then we see those, like, the coins being kind of like rubbed
played
into
with.
A hand.
Yeah.
And it's Elijah. Elijah is alive.
He's back.
Elijah's watching them. Elijah's just got a handful of coins for some reason. Wonder why.
Yeah.
Cut back to, they're just speculating, of course. They're just kind of like, Slater, Damon, and Rose are just kind of being like, oh, well, like, what would happen if you tried to break the curse? Or how could you stop it? And why would the curse exist? And, like, werewolves. And, oh, I've never seen a werewolf. Oh, I have in Mystic Falls. Like, classic.
Yeah, they're covering a lot of good things. Damon also asks, like, a very good question. Like, why would they want to break the curse if Elijah clearly has a daylight ring? Like, why would he care? And, they're talking about, whether or not they can destroy the moonstone, which... Can't they just smash it? It's a rock. It's a rock.
Spell.
I guess.
Have you seen Harry Potter? It's not as easy as all that.
I guess, yeah.
You gotta use a magical something or other to dispel it.
Fair enough. But anyway.
So they're speculating. Yeah. And, Damon's really laying it on thick of, like, I can get you a daylight ring if you help us to Slater. He's like, if you help us figure out how to undo this, I'll get you a ring.
Yeah.
He does not have time to answer that proposal, Slater, because at that moment, Elijah decides to take those coins that he has at the ready, and he tosses them in a way that, like, spreads them out so that they evenly hit all of the glass windows in this coffee shop and shatter every single one from, like, ceiling to floor.
Yeah.
And chaos, of course.
Chaos, of course, ensues. Everyone is running. I'm sure, like, half the people in there are vampires. They're also probably burning in the sun.
Yeah. If not, people are just terrified.
Yeah, people are terrified at the very least, but... Definitely, Rose and Slater, like, are burning. Yeah. We don't really see much of Slater, but we see Rose is, like, sizzling. She's looking terrible. And eventually Damon grabs, like, someone's jacket and, like, puts it over her face and helps her walk out.
Yeah, and he kind of looks out of the window as it's happening too. You know, like, as if, like, who did that? Because, of course, it must be about them. Like, somebody's not just breaking the windows. That's not just happening, But before, you know, he gets a chance to see him, Elijah's just gone. There's
no one's there. Yeah.
So it's very fishy. So Damon saves Rose. He takes her out to the parking garage. She's getting better.
She's healing. Yeah, she's healing.
And, you know, he's asking her, like, what happened. He's, like, blaming Slater. And she's like, Slater didn't do this. He wouldn't do this. It's Klaus. Like, don't you understand? And she's, like, sobbing. She's really freaking out. And although Damon doesn't really, like, show much affection here, he's not a very affectionate person. He kind of just, like, pushes her in the car. Yeah. I feel like you do start to see him a little warming up to her. Like, he kind of feels bad, I think.
Yeah, I think so. He's definitely softening. He doesn't do anything like,
to show
significant, but yeah, you can tell he's kind of like...
Just his facial expressions. It's like a little bit less of like... I don't know. It's enough for him to have helped her into the car.
Also, I think her, like, how afraid she is of Klaus doing this and that he's going to come for them. Like, I think he sees that and he's like, this is obviously real. Like, like, I know she's not faking this and therefore I believe her and I'm also sympathetic towards her.
Yeah, he's not on this like Stefan denial path of like Klaus isn't going to show up. Klaus is not a real thing. He's like
she's right.
This is a 500-year-old vampire woman. More than that. I don't know how old she is. And so it's like, like clearly there is some room to actually reason to be terrified right now.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting sequence. And then cut to the Mystic Girl.
Less interesting sequence.
Less interesting. We've condensed a lot of this. This isn't in order of how this happens, because this episode is very cut back and forth between all of this stuff.
All over the place.
So, all of the stuff that's been going on at the Girl, all the teens are there. I don't know if nobody's going to school or what's happening.
It must be after school, I guess.
Well, because Jeremy and Bonnie said they were going to go after. But then the people that make me question is, of course, we first see Caroline and Stefan there. Mm-hmm. Stefan was going to bounce out of school, so I don't know why he waited to go to the Girl until after school, but... Either way, Caroline and Stefan are at the grill. They've got a bite to eat. You know, they're just talking about, you know, anything they can because she's
Caroline's
just trying
up
to like,
anything.
Yeah, she's just trying to keep him on the hook, and you know, she's eating very slowly. That's what I'll say. She's just like anything she can to keep him around. It's really like, oh well, Tyler's about to turn in a couple days. What do I do about that? And he's like, oh my god.
Yeah, he's clearly trying to leave, and. You know, but he's still being polite and still talking to Caroline. And Caroline also asks him, you know, why are you being such a good friend to me?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Stefan says, you just remind me of someone, my best friend, Lexi.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, Caroline wants to know more, but Stefan tries to leave. He does end up staying, but Stefan is like, I'll tell you another time.
Yeah.
But he still stays.
But I love her response to that because she says, you know, you remind me of my friend, Lexi. And she goes, you have a friend? I was like, that's what we were all thinking, Caroline.
That's what we were all thinking. Stefan has no friends.
Stefan has a friend?
Yeah, no.
Shocking. I love they're so friendly, though. Like, clearly Caroline is his friend. Because I love also at this sequence, too, she goes, are you mad? And Stefan goes, yes, I'm a little mad. Like,
yeah.
It's just funny. They have fully reached friendship status.
They are,
like, this is not about, like, Elena or even helping Caroline anymore. Mm-hmm. This is just, they're just friends.
Yeah.
And so, he tries to leave, but he's like, okay, I gotta help you plan this full moon now, I guess. Also at the Girl is, of course, Bonnie. She got there first, and she sees Luka and his dad, who, you know, she gets introduced to as Dr. Martin. Mm-hmm. They invite her to sit with them, join them for a little bit. And she sits down, and the conversation is a little funny because it's so awkward, first of all.
So weird. Yeah, Dr. Martin is, you know, just asking her a little bit about, you know, what's going on, and realizes her last name is Bennett, and he's like, oh, do you have any family in Salem? I did my residency there.
Yeah.
Bonnie's like, yeah, actually I do. And he's like, small world.
Yeah, I love that it's like the witch's signaling card to be like, do you have family from Salem? Wink, wink.
It's such a reach. Like, it's like, okay, come on. This is a little unbelievable.
Also, it's a little obvious because if I were sitting there as a human, I'd be like, oh, you guys witches? Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's like such an obvious reference. There was no more subtle way to be like, I don't know, are you a witch? A feeler there? But Luka does say later, he's like, my dad's not very subtle about that.
No.
So we'll come back around to that. But for now, Jeremy does show up, kind of gives Bonnie an out. And Bonnie, as she's leaving, she puts her hand on Luka's shoulder, clearly to fill him out. We've seen this before of like the
touch.
Yeah, the touch.
You can tell what's going on.
Touch, trying to get the sense. And clearly that's what she's doing, is like getting those feelers. A little bit later, we see Bonnie and Jeremy. They have fully escalated to like real flirting. Like they're playing pool. They're nudging each other. You know, they're very flirtatious. Jeremy's making fun of Bonnie because she scratches on the table. Less flirty, more awkward is Luka.
Yeah,
Luka shows up.
Yeah, Luka just comes up. He wants to play the winner, and Bonnie's just kind of standing there like.
Yeah, clearly
just
awkward,
like weirded out, like
tense.
Yeah, it's a weird scene.
Which I definitely think it's like, she's obviously picked up on the fact that they're magic, and so she just doesn't really trust them. She's not sure what to think. So clearly she's like, I'm not cozying up with you, buddy. But, of course, like, nothing really happens. For some reason, they just cut away from this. Yeah. And then later we come back to it, and Bonnie's just sitting down, like, she has, like, a drink or whatever, and Jeremy's playing with somebody else. Yeah. I don't know why.
Not sure. I guess they didn't let Luka play winner either. I don't know. Yeah.
Or he already won, or he already played him and lost. So I don't know. Jeremy's moved on to somebody else. I don't know. Either way, Jeremy and Bonnie are making flirty little looks at each other. She's watching him play pool. Yeah, clearly the vibes are just so there. Mm-hmm. And then Luka comes right up to Bonnie to talk to her. And, he says, this is where he says, like, sorry my dad's not so subtle about, like, the whole Salem question. And he reveals, because Bonnie's like, you're a witch. He's like, I'm a warlock. I just hated that.
Yeah, he's like, he pours, while he's talking to Bonnie, he pours the salt on the table and he, like, makes it levitate and then drops it, which is kind of cool and that's kind of fun. And, he says, Bonnie asks, are you and your dad witches? And he says, like, we prefer the term warlock, which, first of all, cringe.
Yeah,
second,
cringe.
Do we ever even hear that word used ever again?
No one ever.
Like, not even in originals. Like, never again.
Tons of witches.
Yeah, especially male witches.
Yeah.
Like,
there's no other male witch. I can only think of one other male witch. Well, I guess two. I can think of like 5 now.
I was going to say, I can think of at least 2 or 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I can think of 5 now that I'm thinking about it. There's lots of male witches, but a lot of them are the heretics and those things, so it doesn't really come up. Or the Gemini. So they kind of have their own distinctions. But, like, even in originals, nobody's like, I'm a warlock. I'm not a witch. No, that's weird.
So weird.
So already the ick from that.
Big ick. Luka could have been in my top tier, but he said that. It brought him down to middle.
The salt thing was cute, though. He, like, floats the salt.
That was good, yeah.
That was good.
There was some riz, but then he just completely dropped it.
It reminds me of Bonnie's, like, feather thing, too.
Yeah,
it's like floating stuff.
It's a good little, like, parallel, yeah.
And so we cut away from that. Cut back later, a lot later. Mm-hmm. Poor Jeremy's playing pool. He looks over again to see Bonnie. He's trying to do that cute eye contact thing again. Bonnie is not looking. She is in warlock land. She is just staring at this guy, and they're just chitter-chattering.
Yeah, you can tell they're really getting along. They're chatting.
Yeah, they're bonding.
It's just a quick scene, but yeah, you can see there's a connection there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still at the grill somehow.
Yeah, she's good at her job.
Yeah, Caroline knows what she's doing. Unfortunately, Stefan also knows what she's doing by this point because, obviously Stefan and Caroline are still here. And Stefan is like, okay, I am leaving. Like, you are not going to stop me. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And, Caroline does try to stop him again. And Stefan, I just love the way they talk to each other. I think it's just very funny. Like, they are very clearly friends. He's like, no, you have 2 seconds to come clean. Like, tell me right now. And Caroline's like, what do you mean? Stefan's like, I'd believe you if, like, your whole thing that we always make you do wasn't distraction. But unfortunately, I know you're distracting me. Like, where's Elena?
Yeah, it's so good that I believe the innocence if you weren't known for just distraction on command.
Yes. Like, which I also love that they keep doing that, like, throughout the rest of the show.
That's what I wrote down too. It was like, yes, obviously she did it to Elena for Katherine. Yeah. Now she's doing it to Steph. But she does it to Klaus like every 2 seconds.
Every time they need to do something with Klaus.
It's just always coming up. It's her classic move.
Yeah.
And so of course, Caroline doesn't immediately confess. She's pretty good about just being like, Elena is fine. I wouldn't let Elena put herself in danger. And Stefan's like, in danger? Like, why would she be in danger? And then he's like, she's with Damon, isn't she?
Hate him.
He's so annoying.
Stefan. Shut up. Just shut up. But no, Caroline's like, no, he's not with Damon. Like, she's not with Damon.
Also, why would that be so bad if she was with Damon?
Chill.
She's obviously, they would be trying to find answers about the...
Yeah, relax.
Like, it's not like she'd be hooking up with him right now. Like,
I
don't know what he's thinking. So Caroline's like, gross. No.
Yeah.
And Stefan is like, well, then where could she be? Like, I don't understand. Like, aren't we friends? Caroline's like, Stefan, we are friends, but I'm also friends with Elena.
She's a good friend.
Yeah, that's the important message here. It's like, yeah, we are friends, but like, she asked me to do this for her, and I'm doing it for
I'm
her.
also her friend. Yeah.
So Stefan gets mad and storms out.
He just leaves.
Yeah, he's being a little dramatic. It's like, I get it that, like, Elena she was kidnapped the other day. Like, she's actively in danger. But also, like, I don't know, if you're being so overprotective to the point where she has to keep secrets from you in order to do the things she feels she needs to do.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, you should maybe take that and learn from that. That feels a little like a signal buddy, but whatever, Stefan,
not the most clued in. But yeah, so he storms off. We'll see him in a little bit. But right now, back at the tomb, Elena is, she's still getting these answers from Katherine, and she asks Katherine, how much of this is actually true. And Katherine tells her, like, I have no reason to lie. I'm locked up in here. I have nothing to do but sit here and, like, Oh, I think I wrote down the line, actually. I have no reason to lie, Elena. I have no reason to do anything but sit here and read and rot. And I wrote that down because I was like, me for real.
Yeah, that's so me.
I'm always sitting here reading and rotting.
Honestly, same.
But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, she's just chilling, reading her book. She's hanging.
Yeah, exactly. She's just hanging out. So she's telling the truth. And Elena also realizes, the reason that Katherine came back to Mystic Falls in the first place is so she could be the one to hand Elena over to Klaus and sort of get her freedom.
Yeah, Elena is really putting things together this scene. Since Katherine's kind of given as much information as she seems willing to give.
Yep.
She's not lying, but she knows way more than she's telling.
Of course, yeah.
And so Elena's kind of left to just, like, go over this. And so, she realizes that, Katherine came back because she wants to hand Elena over to Klaus for her freedom. She wants to make a deal.
Yeah.
She also realizes that Mason must have been sent to get the moonstone for Katherine for this. Katherine's like, correct, like, keep going.
Yep, keep adding it up.
And then, of course, Elena realizes, like, well, there'd be no reason to make Tyler Lockwood a werewolf, so you must need a werewolf, too.
Yep.
And Katherine's again like, oh, yep,
keep going.
And so she's like, so you need the moonstone, a doppelganger, a werewolf. And then Katherine kind of starts to reveal, too. She's like, a vampire. And then Katherine's like, Caroline.
Yep.
And then she says, a witch. And I was thinking Bonnie.
Yep. Yeah. Mine fell through, but Bonnie can work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, again, she reveals it's like Bonnie and Caroline. And Katherine says she likes the poetry of it.
I love that.
I know. I do love that, too. And I do love the poetry of it. And Elena is like, are you kidding me? You were really just going to, like, hand us all over? Like, what? And Katherine, of course, referencing her earlier line, says, better you die than I.
Yeah, better you than I.
Iconic.
It's so good. And it really is. I just love the symmetry of being like, yep, I was going to give over Tyler, Elena, Caroline, Bonnie.
Yep.
Might as well just hand over Matt just for funsies, just a pre-snack.
He can be involved and he could get killed. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Trevor and Rose were also probably going to die. Doesn't matter. Better all of them die than I.
Oh, easily. Catherine's like, take whoever you want, Klaus, as long as it's not me and not Stefan. We're good.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, leave Stefan. Which, Katherine, like, sort of slinks back into the tomb. She's done with Elena. She's had enough. But Stefan comes down. He finds Elena. He's pieced it together. He tells Elena, of course, Caroline didn't tell me you were down here. I just figured it out.
Yeah, where would you go that you'd have to hide from me and wouldn't want me to know and could kind of be in danger?
Yeah.
And Stefan's all mad. He's like, don't listen to Katherine. She's a liar.
Again, in denial.
Yeah, totally in denial, which he's not wrong. Katherine is totally a liar. But also, like, that doesn't mean it's not worth asking her some questions.
Yeah.
And, he's like, you don't need to worry. Like, Katherine's such a liar.
All right.
And Stefan says that he won't let anything happen to Elena. And Elena's like, that's the problem. Like, you won't let anything happen to me to the point where you will get yourself killed. And, like, I'm not willing to risk that. It's a great point because it's exactly
true.
It's true. It's exactly what could happen. And so, Stefan, again, the serious denial. Yep. And Elena, I think, was right to go to Katherine. Like, Katherine gives so much valuable information. I feel like it's undeniable that this was worth it.
Yeah, they know now everyone needs to be involved in this ritual. Like,
yeah, it's not just Elena that's going to get sacrificed. It's
exactly.
The vampire could be anybody, but Tyler is really on the chopping block.
Pretty much the only werewolf.
Yeah. And then Bonnie being the only witch in town, it's like, if Klaus comes in expecting her to do the spell, like, she's screwed. So... yeah, it's definitely like this is a bigger thing, and it's really good that they know that now.
Yeah.
Speak of the devil, Katherine appears, and she reveals that they didn't even get to hear the best part of the story. There's a little bit more. Yep. We cut to, in 1492, newly vampire-turned Katherine arrives home in Bulgaria to find her entire family has been slaughtered by Klaus.
Yeah. Seems like even more than just her family. Like, there are dead bodies as soon as she pulls up to the village.
Yeah.
And then she goes inside and she sees both of her parents.
And I do think she says at some point that her whole village was slaughtered.
I think she does, yeah.
What happened.
Yep.
And then she cries over her mother's body.
Yeah.
And it's so devastating to see her with her mother just sobbing like that. And so Katherine warns Elena that escaping Klaus will lead to the death of her friends, her family, and everyone she has ever loved.
Yep.
Like, it's just, there's no avoiding that. And that shakes Elena. That's like Elena's literal worst nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. That is like what Elena's whole mission so far is. Like, like we were saying, she's a martyr. Yeah, making sure no one else gets dragged into this. Yeah.
And so Katherine says that the only way to stop this from happening is the moonstone.
Yeah, of course. Which
Stefan latches onto that immediately. He's like, there it is. That's the whole thing. You spun this whole lie just so we'd have to come in there and get that from you.
Yeah.
And he's a little right, but he's like being way psycho about it.
I was gonna say, he's being a little extra, a little crazy about it, but like, she is kind of lying. Like, I don't really see what them getting the moonstone will necessarily do.
They could dispel it to make the like curse no longer be able to be broken, but like Klaus is still gonna kill them for that. Like, that's not something that's just gonna, he'll forget now. Like, he'll just let you guys go.
Yeah, but also, could they dispel it? Like, I mean, we see,
I don't know.
The thing we see in a scene that's about to come up makes me think you can't actually do it. But
I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't know if no one in our circle is powerful enough to dispel it, I think is part of the thing.
Yeah, true.
Maybe they could, but again, like, if you did, then like,
you're still gonna die. It doesn't matter.
Like,
yeah.
It's not like he's just gonna be like, well, you foiled my plan. I guess I better leave. Like,
he
killed Catherine's whole village just because she turned into a vampire. Like, you know, I think Katherine knows Klaus, I think, better than this. And so I do think Stefan's right in pointing out that this is the lie, because she goes on to what I think is a lie. She's like, oh, I don't want to get let out of the tomb because when Klaus comes to kill all of you, I'm going to be the one who's safe, locked up in the tomb where no vampire is going to come in because they won't be able to leave. That's such a lie.
That's a lie, yeah.
That's easily a lie. A little tomb spell is not going to stop Klaus.
Like, yeah, no, absolutely not. Yeah, he could find a million ways around that. Yeah.
He'd easily find a witch to break it and get in and kill her.
Yeah.
He'd stand at the door with the fence posts and throw them in until Katherine died. Like, it's not going to stop him.
Yeah, no.
Or he'd send a human in there to kill her. I don't know. Like, it's Klaus. Like, Katherine knows that that's not going to do anything. Yeah. She's totally just bluffing to try to get them to, like, think she has some upper hand that she does not have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this is... Stefan is a little right in being like, okay, now she's lying. But he thinks she's lying about the whole thing.
Which, no.
So, lying Katherine. We'll stay in the tomb for now.
Yeah.
Stefan does take Elena home back to the Gilbert house. Mm-hmm. And she really starts to break down. Like, the fact that this is exactly what she feared, that this is all just because of her and this is just about her. It's not because Katherine came to town. It's not because Stefan came to town. It's just because Elena is Elena. That's like her worst nightmare. This is what she's been trying
to avoid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the thing she's been fearing. And Nina is so good at the delivery here. I really was feeling my eyes like prickle a little bit when I was watching this scene. I felt so moved for her about, the saying like, this is all my fault. It's just so devastating.
Yeah, no. She does it really well. This is a scene where Stefan is also like almost on the brink of crying, but he's not doing it quite as well. Now that you questioned me about Stefan's crying in the last episode or a couple episodes ago, I'm like, now I see.
Now you feel more critical. If
I'm like, okay, it's not quite as good. I stand by the one I said, but in this one, I'm like, not quite as good.
Yeah. I don't mind this one as much as the other one, because the other one was the full lip quivers.
Well, this one's a little more subtle.
The full baby eyes. This one's more subtle. But yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like, it just feels unjustified in a way because Stefan's in such denial that you're like...
Exactly. I'm like, Stefan, save it.
Yeah. Why
save
are you
it, sister. Yeah.
Save it, sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
But
anyway, Stelena crying, what's new?
Yeah, they're both crying. They hug. They're both upset. And then playing over their scene and then playing into the next scene is Amen, Omen. Very emotional, like, I don't know, just the song is, it's really, really,
it's very moving. It's very emotional.
It's very moving, yeah.
It's very sentimental.
Yeah, very, like, wistful, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely covers, like, the set of emotions that I think fits both the, like, Elena's breakdown into what is the next scene is kind of Catherine's, like, breakdown in a way. Katherine, she still has that Petrova book. She still has the lantern from Elena. So she at least isn't sitting in the dark with nothing to do or think about anymore.
Thank God.
And so now she's just like flipping through that book, and she finds a sketch of her parents and herself, and she just kind of looks at the sketch of her mother and like, you know, rubs her like hand along it. You know, like she's kind of like tenderly looking at the sketch of her mother. Yeah.
And we pan to Catherine's face and we see like her eyes are welling up, but not spilling over. Like, which I feel like is such like a hard thing to do, like to just get your eyes glassy but not actually cry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very emotional. I think I cried more than Katherine did.
I teared up.
Katherine, yeah, Katherine like just welled up a little bit, but I think I had some spillage. I think I had some tears flow over.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like I said, my eyes started prickling in the Elena scene when Elena is sobbing. Elena's like full on crying, but then when it got to the Katherine scene and she like, even in this dark private tomb, wasn't allowing herself to cry over this. That's when I started actually crying. It's interesting the contrast there of like Elena to Stefan full on sobbing about what's going on versus Katherine, who's like still not even in the privacy of her tomb, not allowing herself to even like shed one tear. And how the emotions of those are like, it's just so different. And it's I did cry for Katherine. I've seen it 1,000 times and I feel so bad. Her mother.
Also the lyrics of the song, like, will I see your face again?
It really fits.
They're
so good at picking the songs that fit the
moments. They really are.
This is a good one. Then we ended off at the Salvatore house. This scene is a little cut up. So at first we had seen Damon. He's drinking. He's staring at the fire. He's clearly upset. And, it's not been a successful day. They basically got nothing out of this except got Rose rattled. They got rattled. That's all they got. So Rose shows up and she apologizes. She's like, Slater didn't do this, but I'm sorry that like this happened. And Damon acknowledges. He's like, I know.
I believe you.
I believe you, and I believe that, this was something else. And Rose says that Damon reminds her of Trevor, which is very sweet, but also he's like, he makes this face. It's like,
he's like,
heck?
Why?
Don't take that as a compliment. And he does say, why him? And Rose says, because he was always like working an angle. He was always kind of up to something, but deep down, he was the best friend that anybody could ever have. And of course, that got Trevor killed, so Damon's not that flattered by that. But it is sort of an accurate comparison. And then this leads them to talk about caring and about how caring gets you dead, because that is what they say is, that got Trevor killed. And, they say, maybe you should switch off your emotions. And Damon says, well, I will if you will.
Throwing her line from earlier back at her.
And of course, this leads to a great makeout.
Of course. They, of course, start making out. And then back at the end of the episode, we see, they are sort of laying there. It's implied.
Shirts off, blanket covers on top.
And the scene comes in, and sort of picking up where the earlier scene had left off, Rose says, it's a lie. There's no switch you can turn off. Maybe when you're like a new vampire for the first 100 years or so. But after that, there's not really any switch.
It's so interesting. We've talked about the vampire switch so many times. It's such an interesting like kind of piece in that debate of like, we've never seen an original turn, their humanity off. So like I think there is some validity to saying after 200 years, can't really switch it off.
But I know. We'll have a whole special episode.
I really think it should be a whole special.
There's so much to
say about the humanity switch, and I think this Rose scene is like really what provides so much interest into that topic. So they're just talking about that when Rose gets a call from Slater, who confirms like he got out, he's alive, he's fine, for now. And, he says he's going to look into the curse, that he thinks he's already found a way that he can stop the curse. You would need to get the moonstone, and you would need to get a witch. And all you have to do is give it to a witch. They'll be able to figure it out. Don't worry. Weird. They'll be able to dispel the moonstone so that you can no longer perform the ritual.
And, Slater is very, very, like, clearly trying to say, like, can you get someone to get the moonstone? Like, can you get the moonstone? And, Rose, like, looks at Damon. Damon's like, get the moonstone. We got it. And they confirm for Slater that they get the moonstone. And then Slater hangs up pretty quickly. That's basically the end of the conversation.
On Damon and Rose's end. And then the reveal. He hangs up, and like last episode, we get that big cliffhanger of last time it was that Elijah couldn't be killed just by like a regular stake in the heart. And this time their big great ending reveal is that Elijah can compel another vampire. And so he of course compelled Slater to make that phone call to say all of those things. And Slater's even saying in this point, he's like, a vampire can't compel another vampire.
Yeah.
And Elijah's like, well, I'm a special vampire.
Yeah. And Slater asks, is it because you're an original vampire? Mm-hmm. And Elijah's like, Like, he doesn't say either way. Which,
he's not going to tell him.
Yeah.
Which is because the next thing he compels him to do is take a stake and drive it through his
doesn't
own
matter,
heart.
yeah.
So, yeah, why give him any answers? He's going to die. So, of course, Slater dies in that moment by staking himself. And then, just to top it off, another big reveal.
Wild.
Yeah, out of, like, the kitchen, the shadows, whatever, Dr. Martin, who was at the grill with Bonnie, Luka's father, the witch, he comes out and it's revealed like he's working with Elijah. Clearly, this is all the sneaky plan to get Damon to go retrieve the moonstone, give it to Bonnie, who's of course not going to know what to do, and is going to ask these new witches in town she just met, Luka and Dr. What's-his-face, Martin, and ask them for help. So it's a great ploy on Elijah's part. It's a great set of reveals. He's totally got this thing like worked out.
Yeah, he really does. And he says, to close off the episode, he says, won't be long now.
Yeah,
so,
pieces are coming together.
Yeah, and it won't be. Things are moving.
Things are moving.
Yeah.
So that's where we leave the gang for this episode.
Yeah. As for deaths for this episode, we have Slater, who was killed by...
Stake in the heart.
Stake in the heart. I don't know if we want to say Elijah.
I think it's Elijah. He compelled him to do it.
Yeah, so Elijah kills Slater. Back in 1492, Klaus kills...
everybody.
Probably some of his family, maybe. Like, some of his... Maybe Elijah helps him, but we'll say Klaus.
Yeah, I think
kills
Klaus.
all of Catherine's village. Of course.
You love when the in memoriam is a whole village.
Yeah, a whole village killed by Klaus. Yeah.
Iconic. I love him.
Yeah, he really is iconic. Catherine obviously takes her own life, and then I don't know if we want to say she also kills the woman, like, in the cottage... Or if Rose kills her.
I think it's Catherine's fault.
I was thinking, it's Catherine's fault. Catherine feeds on her, so I feel like that probably is what does
Catherine.
it. Yeah, so lots of deaths. Most done by Klaus, just because. Just the whole village,
He hasn't even appeared yet, and he's already taken...
so many lives.
He's already got the highest head count so far.
Yeah, true.
with no appearance.
Yeah.
So, lots of death. And then on the opposite end is out of pocket. I, again, did not have an out of pocket. I was like, it's just such a good episode. I don't know. The only out of pocket that comes to mind is Luka just randomly trying to, like, bond with Bonnie and being like, I'll take winner. And, like, it's not even really out of pocket. It's just weird. I'm just like, I guess would have done differently is what it is for me.
Yeah, I think there would have been a better way to introduce him. We could go with that because I also didn't have anything.
Yeah.
But, they could have, I think, introduced Luka in a little bit more of a smooth way.
Yeah, which I guess part of it is that he's not trying to be smooth. He's obviously part of this ploy. So it is also they're teenagers. Well.
Like it would be weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. And he's crashing at like a first date. Of course, it's awkward. True. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard because Rose is probably my favorite episode. So I was like, yes, perfect episode. No notes, no out of pocket. This one, not that it's not. It's an amazing episode. But I'm like, do we want to do two?
I know, two no notes. Well, I'm actually starting to worry we're gonna have like more with no notes. Like I feel like it's only going to get worse from here where it's less teen drama and like it's so serious.
That's true. So maybe this category will be done away with soon, but I don't know. I think there's always things I would do slightly differently.
True.
And for me it's Luka this time.
We can go Luka.
I would have been more subtle.
Yeah. True. Yeah. No, we can go with Luka for now. We'll see.
We'll give Luka ours not out of pocket but would have done a little differently. I would have acted differently at least.
Yeah. No, I think that works. And I think as for quote, the best quote of the episode, I think obviously I have to give it to Better You Die Than I.
That was my first nomination too. Yeah, I was like, it's Katherine, Better You Die Than I. Yeah. I also liked Catherine's Witches and Their Spells. So many ingredients. So many people to sacrifice.
Yeah,
I thought that was a
fun too.
One.
Yeah.
And then I, of course, loved Elijah's I'm a Special Vampire.
Yeah,
but I think it has to go to Catherine for Better You Die Than I. It's just such an iconic, such a memorable. She gets to say it twice. So it's
literally like her ethos. Like she literally lives her life by that code. Like,
she really does. It's Catherine's whole thing.
Yeah.
Now we have the best song for this episode. I have to say, I think there were a few songs because they're at the grill, so there's always songs playing.
Yeah.
But there's one song that's such a clear standout, and I really enjoyed this one. It's so moving.
I think we have to be saying the same. Yeah. I'll let you say it.
Okay, I'll say it. The winner is Amen, Omen by Ben Harper.
Yeah. So good. Like the lyrics fit perfectly, the vibe, like
so emotional.
Everything.
It's so Vampire Diaries, you know, the emotional, the moving, the dramatic. It's very what you think of when you think of songs from this show, and it works perfectly with, I think, Of course, the Damon and Rose talking about emotions, and then the Stefan and Elena talking about like guilt and it being your fault. But then more so with Katherine looking at the photo of her mother. I think that's the moment where the song really like hit me, at least.
Yeah.
So, best song of this episode, Amen Omen by Ben Harper. I will be adding that song to our best song playlist. We have a playlist where we have all of our winners of best song of every episode, so you can go listen to that, linked in our various bios and descriptions. You can also find there our TikTok and our Instagram, where you can go join the conversation about various Vampire Diaries episodes through memes, clips from the podcast, etc.
You can listen to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can watch the video version on YouTube if you're not already. So join us next week for season 2, episode 10, The Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Not much to say about that one. Just a little Elena Rose bonding time. That's all that sticks out right now.
There's a lot to talk about. We'll have a good time on that one.
There's a lot to talk about, but the big thing I feel like is Elena and Rose.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in this part of the season. So really excited to get to that one.
Yeah, nothing bad from here on out, honestly. Yeah.
So we hope we see you next week for The Sacrifice. Thanks for watching or listening to this one. Bye.